Tonight, Quedia with author C.S. Pacat, Queer Idea, Young Liberty for Law Reform, and Lost in Translation. Hello, my name is Steve Pereira and you're watching Quedia on Ben TV, where we explore all things queer and anything media. Welcome to part 2 of our interview with publishing sensation C.S. Pacat, whose novel The Captive Prince, the first of a trilogy, has attracted millions of hits. Here to talk about the book is C.S. Pacat. Hello, Catherine. Welcome back to Ben
thank
TV.
You.
Thanks for sticking with us. The Captive Prince, this fabulous book. The genre, historical romance, sexy romance, pornography? Which category?
I'll take it. I'll take them all.
Take it all.
Yeah.
I have to say, I read the first 3 chapters because I got this fairly late, but it was fascinating.
I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Very sexy read.
Yeah.
So tell us about it. How did you arrive at this?
I really wanted to write the book that I wanted to read. I like high-octane escapism, you know, chases and escapes and adventure and romance and true love, all that stuff. But I'm also really interested in, you know, sex and power and sexuality and homoerotica. So I wanted a book that contained all of those elements.
Sex and power and homoeroticism.
Yeah.
Seems always to end up in some sort of S&M type slave scenario type things.
Not always.
Not always, but I keep harking back to we were talking earlier about Anne Rice.
Yeah. And
some of the resonances that come through. Who were your influences? Who influenced you in this?
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned Anne Rice. As we were saying, when I was growing up in the 90s, in genre fiction, she was one of the few writers that her books kind of did have a queer sensibility. I think at that time, especially if you were more interested in genre than realist fiction, it was possible to exhaust kind of the LGBT lexicon very quickly. You could literally read all the books that there were and then be left kind of waiting for something else. So I guess she was one of my childhood influences.
And tied in through, there's a lot of mythology because this is kind of a historical romance type genre as well. And there's a lot of sort of historical Greek mythology antecedents in there, and some of the names and the places and the characters. How much of that is a carry through? Was that intentional?
I'm really interested in classical Greek culture. I love the way that they mythologize their own heroes. I love the epic storytelling that comes out of that era. I think, as well as all of that, ancient Greece is kind of a touchstone where we all understand about that culture, that they constructed sexuality very differently to the way that we do ourselves. So when we think about ancient Greece, we understand that, you know, while sexual attraction is innate, the way that people construct sexuality across cultures, you know, that's not transhistoric. That's something that changes across time and dependent on different cultures. So I think that in a way that becomes kind of a way of expressing to the reader, or we're going now into a story that might have different sexual norms, might be a bit more homonormative.
We seem to be at a time now, we've got Vikings, Game of Thrones, and there's all this mythologized escapism.
Yeah. Which
is both forward-thinking, it's that it's fairly futuristic, at the same time that it is very historical, and it's based in all-time mythologies, whether Norse mythology, Greek mythology, Roman mythology. Why do you reckon that is? What's with us in our modern, what's part of a modern condition that we require that kind of mythologizing?
Oh, that's really interesting. I think that makes me think of some of the commentary by Bell Hooks when she says that pop culture is where the pedagogy happens. But I think that pop culture can also be the place where we mythologize ourselves, where we kind of create mythic versions of ourselves. And so I think that's what you often find in those kind of epic genre pieces. That's why we are drawn to them. And that's where we're kind of doing that sort of storytelling at the moment.
What are we escaping from, though?
Oh, interesting question. I think that, you know, I really enjoy literary kind of realist fiction, but I think that realism is only good at, or is best at telling stories within a certain bandwidth of experience. And that when it comes to the extremes of experience, realism kind of breaks down because extremes are never quite plausible in a realist setting, you know. So I think that when we want to explore those kinds of themes, perhaps that's when we push
So
more
this
in towards
isn't-
genre.
So the zeitgeist of the moment is exploring our subconscious yearnings for something.
Yeah, possibly. Very
That's
possibly.
also something really interesting about ourselves, isn't it? The
Yeah.
fact that we can't, that what's real is a bit too difficult to handle. And so there's this, one reading of it. So there's an escape to mythologizing. But what's fascinating is that we're not creating a forward-thinking mythology, but we're looking backwards, not backwards, but we're looking towards the past as the source of some sort of answers. Is there an answer there?
You know, I think that when we look at the past, I mean, it's you know, as a woman, or perhaps as if, you know, as a queer person or as a member of any minority, sometimes it can be a bit difficult to nostalgize the past because the past can feel hostile. But I think I'm interested in kind of creating imaginative landscapes that don't have that exclusionary feeling, that perhaps are a little bit more diverse, or are exploring themes and ideas that perhaps we haven't seen explored as much within that genre.
Who for you is your favourite character in this in the book?
Gosh, don't make me choose a favourite.
Oh, come on. I have one already. I haven't even finished reading the book.
Oh, who is yours? Can I ask?
I think it's Damon.
Oh, right. You're a Damon, Team Damon.
I'm assuming that just because he's fabulously good looking. Anyway. But
That's
yeah.
an excellent reason.
But also because he's the central hero and he's the underdog.
Right.
And he's the one who's hard done by.
Yeah.
And he is fantastically built. Your descriptions of him are amazing. But who would you identify with?
Gosh, I don't think that I can choose between either of like our heroes. But of the minor characters, I think probably my favourites are Nikai's and Yocast, I think, those two.
And where does it go from here? What happens to the third of the novels? Is there a conclusion to the whole?
Yeah, the third book is the conclusion to the trilogy. So hopefully that will be a satisfying endpoint for readers.
And your next project, is it going to be along the similar lines? So do you know what you're going to be writing on next?
Yeah, I do have a mini project coming up that I can't reveal too many details about, but that is, how can I put it, Captive Prince adjacent. And I'll be working on that, and then I think it's on to my next series.
Do you know what the next series is?
Yes, I do know what it is, but I'm hesitant to talk about it at this early stage.
You've got a developing fan base, yeah? Now's the time to drop hints.
It will probably be young adult genre, but that's as much as I'll say right now.
Sweet. Who do you think, who's your reader for this?
The reader base is actually really diverse. That's what I found. So, because the book has so far only been in the online space, it's kind of tended to be kind of more internet savvy, internet savvy people. But we'll see what happens on April the 7th when the book is released in bookstores.
April the 7th, you've heard it here first. That's when this fabulous book is going to be available at your bookstore. Go and buy it. It's a fantastic read. Thank you, Catherine, CS Pacat, for joining us on Ben TV. And please get onto our website where CS Pacat reads from a fabulous first copy of The Captive Prince. bentv.org.au. Watch it now. Thank you and good night. Good evening, I'm Steve Pereira and welcome to Queer ID on Ben TV. We're talking again to David Sandbach, Evan Ritli, and joining us is Lucy Maxwell from Young Liberty for Law Reform about the issue of LGBTI refugees. In an earlier episode, we talked about what's happening to queer refugees who are being resettled in Papua New Guinea, where being queer is against the law and open to prosecution, which raises a huge issue for people who both declare themselves to be gay or people who are refugees and who happen to be gay.
Yeah.
So how can we change the situation?
Do you guys want to take that in terms of what your key actions are for people who attended the event and where you direct people to?
There's a few things that people can do if they want to get involved and, make some changes. First, we'd say get involved in a human rights organisation or a refugee organisation that's really pushing these issues. It's a matter of raising awareness on the issues and getting out there and putting pressure on politicians.
But raising awareness with whom? Because clearly all the politicians know the issue. What will actually take? What steps actually need to happen next? Does it have to be legislative change? Does it have to be thunderbolt and lightning? What's going to change the law?
What we'd like to see is that Australia to stop offshore processing in general, but in particular with the LGBTI issue, to process LGBTI refugees claiming on that basis in Australia and resettle in Australia. That's the end goal. That's what needs to happen to change this from this horrible situation that we're currently in.
But something else specific that was raised at the event by Chris Walker.
Do you want to talk about the event very briefly?
Sure.
Because,
well, we had 3 panellists. One
this
was
is at Midsummer 2015?
Yeah, at the Northcote Town Hall. And one of the key objectives of the event was to, when you talk about who to raise awareness with, I think we were really keen to engage the LGBTI community in Melbourne and Victoria more generally about this political issue that I think has been taken on by people involved in refugee activism or human rights lawyers, but maybe not by the LGBTI community more generally. So that was really the target of this event. And the 3 speakers were quite different. One was a former politician from PNG, Dame Carol Kiddu. She spoke about her efforts to try and decriminalise homosexuality in PNG and how resettlement might work in PNG. And then we had a barrister that's done a lot of work in refugee advocacy, Chris Walker, who's now a silk. And we had a campaigner from Amnesty International, Sen Raj, who's done a PhD on better models around the world for how claims for asylum on the basis of sexuality are assessed. And that was actually something that came out of the event, aside from legislative change, but better training of decision makers and tribunal members when they're hearing from someone who's saying that they're being persecuted on the grounds of their sexuality, what kinds of sensitive questions need to be asked to enable someone to make their claim. And do you guys want to talk about the kinds of stereotypes that are used?
Can I just go back to, from a lay perspective and from somebody who comes from a migrant culture and is hopelessly outraged now that I'm learning more about this, changing PNG's attitude to homosexuality for me wouldn't be the first step, logically. The first step would be to get our parliamentarians to get the act in order and say, this is Australia. We believe in fundamental human rights. We believe in non-discrimination. We will not support any regime that does that, and we will not partner with any regime that does that. Does that not seem like a logical first step?
I completely agree. I think the first step is for us to change our laws and to not send people there in the first place. The decriminalisation of homosexuality in Papua New Guinea is a separate issue, and it would be great for that to happen and to be decriminalised there. But what we need to focus on is Australia changing Australia's policies and processing here, resettling here, rather than sending off to a third world country that's struggling in many ways with these issues.
Can I ask what might be a difficult question then, or might be an awkward question, in that in including somebody from PNG talking about decriminalisation of homosexuality in PNG, is in effect kind of disingenuous because it deflects the problem away from our problem and says it's their problem.
Yeah, I think the reason why we wanted to have a speaker from PNG was to talk about what would resettlement look like. If Australia is really committing to resettling refugees in PNG, is it feasible? And also that idea, which I think is maybe a myth, that if there's a criminal law that's not enforced, it's okay to send people there. And Dame Carol said some interesting things about the risks of having a law that's on the books and hangs over people's heads, really.
Her words were, laws that are not used may be abused.
Absolutely, and we've talked earlier about what's happening in India, where homosexuality has been recriminalised, not enforced, but it puts millions of people at risk because they're open to abuse by the police and anybody else who wants to blackmail them for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So hugely problematic in that sense.
Indeed.
So if you were to have a singular message to the LGBTI community in terms of a first step towards taking action on this, what would your suggestion be?
I hand it to you guys.
I'd say, as a first step, support human rights organisations like Liberty Victoria, as well as others that campaign for change, for making a fair and a better system for asylum seekers to be resettled in Australia, or if not, in a country where they'll be provided with safety and security.
So write letters to your MP.
Yeah.
Yes.
Lobby people.
Raise awareness in the community in general. Show people this interview. Get people talking about this issue. So, one thing we've found with refugee issues in general is the LGBTI aspect of it is so unknown. People don't know that it's against the law in Papua New Guinea to have consensual sex with males, and they don't know that we're sending LGBTI asylum seekers to that country.
But also we were talking earlier before the interview, and this absurd idea about how they're identifying people who are gay, who claim to be gay, and they've got this, do you like Madonna music?
Yeah.
Is that what we're saying?
So they use Western ideas of what it means to be gay and apply it to people who are not from a Western culture. They're generally from the Middle East or Central Asia or other parts of Southeast and Southern Asia.
Yeah, so if you're from Syria and have never heard from Madonna, you're stuffed either way.
So yes.
To verify the claims, they need to first prove that you are gay, that your claim checks out, and that you were persecuted because you're gay. And in that context, that's why they ask things like, tell us about your favourite Madonna album. They base the ridiculous stereotypes. They also will say, like, what's the main gay club in Karachi or something? Just absurd.
Which being homosexual in Karachi is illegal.
Yeah, and they'll just assume that because you're from that, you say you're gay, you're from this country, you must know this. It's
I'm not
outrageous.
a scene guy, I don't hang out the scene. Where can people find out more about Young Liberty?
Well, we've got a Facebook page, which is just Young Liberty for Law Reform.
Right.
And you can sign up there. We post our work. A lot of the other groups, we've got about 25 volunteers currently working on a range of human rights issues. And as well as doing things like the Midsummer event, we do submissions to government, host public events, and try and raise awareness through other forms. So interviews like today, newspaper articles and that kind of thing. And we're recruiting for the next 12-month program of volunteers. So people who are interested in working in small groups to do law reform projects, supervised by human rights advocates, feel free to check out our Facebook page or our website, Liberty Victoria. If you Google that, the Young Liberty program link will be there.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, on behalf of the gay community, thank you for being part of the process of stopping this and eradicating this completely illogical process. We've been talking to David, Evan and Lucy from from Young Liberty for Law Reform.
Yeah.
I've been Steve Pereira. I will continue to be Steve Pereira for a while, I hope. You're watching A Queer Idea on Ben TV. Thank you for watching.
Hello and welcome to Lost in Translation, where we look at things under the gender microscope. Yeah. Tonight I am joined by Simona and Kurt, so welcome to the show tonight.
Good evening, good morning.
So I thought we would have a bit of a chat to start with, because everybody here appears to be sporting tattoos. So I was just wondering, so let's have a chat about this one, because that's quite interesting. When did you get that one?
I got that one done, a few years ago. I can't remember exactly, Yeah, it's a Soviet anti-fascism poster, and this woman going, "Ew," and in Russian underneath it says, "No fascism." Yeah, which is pretty good. So, I guess I got it tattooed because I was sick to death of people telling me that I couldn't be who I wanted to be or do what I wanted to do, and so this was kind of, part of it, I guess. Part of communicating something in my brain that, I didn't think it was going to get me anywhere socially to just go to everyone, so I just get it tattooed on myself, It's like those people that wear those T-shirts that say fuck your opinion, But no, this is perhaps slightly more tasteful.
Because it's in Russian, so no one can read it.
Well, the funny thing about this was that I was on a tram going down to St Kilda, and this dude got on the tram and was started talking in Russian to me, and I'm like, "Nah, dude, I'm not Russian." He's like, "Yes, but why do you have Russian on your arm?" And I'm like, "Oh." He said, "Can you tell me how to get to Balaclava?" And I just said, "Just follow this and get off with one stop after me." So, Yeah, you know.
So it's almost like
Anyway.
that really bad kind of all the Chinese symbol-y type things. Not saying that it's bad, but that people don't necessarily, you know, that
They don't know what they mean.
they don't necessarily know what they mean. Or you at least know what that means.
Well, I know
Are you
what it means,
convinced?
and I'm researched, but maybe I'm not sure. No, Continue.
So how about you? You've got quite a few.
Yeah, so I've got a lot of flowers going on, and I've got a stave with a few musical notes on it. So basically, it's just for my own fun. This is like a bit of an artwork for me. I love nature and I love music. I've got a massive gecko on my back.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I got that when I was quite young, and it was originally basically, I had this idea that I just wanted to colour in my hips because I hated them so much. I just wanted them black or something covering them. So I got this gecko, which is sort of, it's not really covering my hips, it's kind of like...
Black hips.
Well, you know,
name for
I
a
needed
band.
to, I felt like I wanted to just
Black
cover my
hips.
hips. Black hips, yeah. And yeah, so it's still there, and it's kind of could be a bit of a tramp stamp now, but I was watching a tattoo show the other day, and a guy came on and he had a tramp stamp, and he was bald with a big beard and everything, and he said, look, I've got to get this removed or something over it because I can't believe I have a tramp stamp. And the tattoo artist said, why do you have a tramp stamp? And he said, well, actually, I used to be female. And this was on one of those, you know, Ink shows, MTV shows. And he said it like that, I used to be female. And everyone was shocked, and it was like this big twist.
Yeah.
But
Newsworthy.
Yeah, newsworthy.
Yeah, we'll
I
put
wonder
that
how
on.
often that happens. FTM's getting tramp stamps removed.
That could be a show.
That could be a show.
That could be a show.
Yeah.
See, because I know that the very first tattoo I ever got was on my calf, and it's a big one of Lara Croft, because I'm a gaming nerd.
Really? Cool.
And the thing is that when I got that tattoo, I was, you know, presenting as female, so I used to shave my legs and all that sort of stuff. Well, add some testosterone, and so now she's basically swinging through the jungle. Like, it's...
Has Lara Croft got a beard?
Yeah, she does. It's really upsetting for me. Because
That's great.
I mean, I don't
Bit
want to...
tufty.
Yeah.
Tufty.
Because I don't want to shave, because it's kind of like, you know, I've finally got, you know, this really kind of, well, soft and delicate leg hair. But, you know,
Just go.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, nice.
So that's sort of the issue that I've noticed with that.
Interesting.
Which it's similar to a tramp stamp, I'm not sure.
It can be put in the same category, yeah.
Yeah.
We're not going to get that much hair. Well, I don't know.
You haven't seen my back.
It's a mystery.
Later. Yes.
So have you got any tattoos sort of pre and post transition? Like, are they
Well, all of these are all pre-transition. No, yeah. No, this is post. So this one I got in San Francisco, which was just
cool.
as I started to take hormone replacement therapy. And I'm a Gemini, so it's just the Gemini constellation. Well, it's Kafka and Pollux. It was perfect because I was on vacation in San Francisco, and it was just to commemorate that time between, I guess, before and after. So, you know, that did it. And then this was my architecture thesis. It's a New Order record cover that it was a diagram that I turned into a building and a city, and it sort of informed my architectural thesis. So. And I got another one on my middle of my back, which just absolutely killed. It just made me cry. It was awful, and I'm glad the dude that did it didn't finish it because he would have absolutely fucked it up. When I got home, it was like tapered up my back like a bloody cobra, and I was like, I'm so glad you only did the first one. And it was right in the middle of my spine. It absolutely killed. It's like a tile of Ridley, like Blade Runner, and Frank Lloyd Wright like designed this house, and. Yeah, so it's a tile, architectural tile.
Okay.
You
Can you see the blank look of my face?
I'm just going to wrap that one up there and just go, yeah, whatever, you know.
So it's an incomplete tattoo, or is it?
No, it's done as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Because there's a repetitive pattern 4 times, you know. I don't know what this has got to do with anything. Wrap this up anyway. You know, tattoos, urban bling, you know.
Well, that's not really bling, but that did just catch my eye.
Well, I can reflect
very
lasers
shiny.
with this. When I perform with lasers, and sort of part of it is like I just do this, and all the lasers go all over the place.
That's
It's
amazing.
bullshit. I don't do that at
I
all.
was going to say, how much accuracy to get one laser on it?
Well, it sort of turns 1 into 6.
I really thought that. I'm kind of
we believe
disappointed
you.
now.
What?
Yeah.
That
We're gullible.
I thought that. Anyway, so well, now that you've sucked me in, I think that's a good time to sort of wrap up. So thank you very much for coming on tonight. So you've been watching Lost in Translation.
CS Pacat reading an excerpt from Captive Prince will be available on our YouTube channel. So if you are not already, please subscribe. We're also on Facebook and Twitter, and visit our website to find ways you can support Bent TV.